2019, the average annual growth in gross domestic product was 3.2%. That's a good, fair increase in economic activity. That's non-inflationary. In 1950, the post-World War II, the highest one-year growth ever was 13.4%. That's because the men and women who were in the war came back. We started making things. It was the General Motors paradigm. Well, they moved to Levitan, exactly. They made things. They put things in boxes and shipped them out. General Motors, the Ford, we became huge in that. In 2009, that was really when the Great Recession was really digging in its teeth. We had a record low, minus 4% growth. Can you imagine -4? You all know -4. You lived in your households. In 2006 to 2015, that's the current day, it's been below 2% every year, whether it be Long Island or whether it be the federal government. So we are not generating that type of activity that would require hiring more people, paying more wages. And we have more people off out of the workforce, and the baby boomers, I guess that's us, Gary, right? That's us. We're retiring. We're not working. Actually, I'm working. He's retired. But I'm working, and the kind of we're not making the kind of money that we made before, and the retirees aren't putting that much money into the economy. So that becomes a problem. The seniors are very important for the stability, and the baby boomers who are retired are very important for the stability of the economy. But once, unfortunately, a fact of life is that we don't live forever. And once that happens, the millennials come in, and I'll close on this for the millennials. I did a survey of millennials, and I always like to say I've got 3 of them, and if anybody wants one, I've got one that needs a job. So, but what I found for the millennials on Long Island in particular, and I think this is something that we need to pay attention to, because the millennials is the generation that succeeds the boomers, and they're the ones whose responsibility will be to keep the economy going, like every generation that preceded them. 60% of the millennials tried to find a job in the past year. Doesn't mean they're successful, they tried. 60% say they are unable to find jobs that align with their skill sets. Now, part of it, and I took a look at this, I mean, some of these young people are coming out of college with journalism degrees. Now, excuse me, journalism is not exactly a high-paying. I'm sorry if there's a journalist here, but he'll get up and confirm it.
What's a journalist?
Yeah, they're not making tons of money.
Now everybody knows we didn't prepare this at all with getting him to say what he wanted. He just insulted all the reporters that are writing about this story.
Well, listen, say good things about me because I'll help you get more money, okay? But so anyway, they're finding that they're the jobs in hospitality, things like that. Very few are doing science and tech. 68% can't find jobs aligned with their salary expectations. They're coming out, they have loans. So this is all the stuff that we are dealing with on the island, and these are issues directly related to what the Congress can do and the state can do.
All right, thank you, Marty. Thank you very much. And one of the things that we want to get to tonight is talking about some of the proposed ideas how to address these issues, like investing in infrastructure, massive investment in infrastructure in America that will not only improve our quality of life, will improve our economic conditions, but will also create jobs by investing in infrastructure. I am a very strong advocate of moving to a green economy because of all the jobs that will be created from that. It will also help us with foreign policy and are not having to rely on foreign oil, but it will also be great for the environment in the process as well as creating tremendous jobs. And also figuring out how to get more skills, get more of our young people, and even older people, working people, with the skills necessary to compete in the world economy. With that, I'm going to turn it over to a man who's been working on solutions all of his life, Congressman Gary Ackerman.
Thank you very much. First, you could have introduced me as doctor also. I have 2 doctorates. They're both honorary. One is from Korea. I have no idea what it says. Could be a guy put a star on the menu and get it to me. I had to wear a cap and gown to get it. Tom, thank you very much for doing this again. I think it's very innovative, great public service that we could sit here even though it's a campaign going on, national level, local level, and discuss things in a reasonable way, because very often when there are town hall meetings in the midst of a political campaign, all you do is have the bride side and the groom side. Nobody knows who's where, but the food fight breaks out right away. Nothing gets done. Everybody's split and divided. And to be with Dr. Cantor is a great, great treat. Once again, we haven't been together for a while. He's fantastic. He knows his stuff. He knows all the numbers. And he's a fantastic economist and analyst and commentator as well. So thank you. I'm here to learn as well. But I want to approach it from a different perspective. Maybe start with 1,000 miles out, looking down at it, and take something that Tom said, just take it off. About some states being net givers, such as New York, California, and other states being more taker states. They take out of the system much more than they put in to the federal government, and they don't, and they get more money back. So if you see the cycle, it's really our money that's going to other places. To tell you the truth, I don't resent that. I don't mind that. I think that that's what life is really all about. We are all net contributors or net producers, and we're all net takers or consumers. And that changes during the time frame of our lifeline, no matter how long that is. From day one, the day that each of us was born, we were 100% takers, consumers. We produced nothing except the refuse from the stuff we took. And we contribute nothing of value unless you count joy, hopefully, to the lucky parents. And some people don't even have that. Their children are not even a joy. And you can see the difficulties that some people have, seriously, if you take a look across the economic spectrum. And as life goes on, you learn more, you take more, you're a consumer of education, and then you start producing a little bit. And then you start hopefully producing more. It's like a bell curve. And at a certain age, whatever that is, midlife, I guess, somewhere, people, I guess, would say somewhere around that, you're at the peak of your productivity and what you contribute to society, however you measure that. The economists measure it in goods and services. I think there's a lot more to that than measuring it in goods and services. There are some people who lead different kinds of lives than others. Some people produce greatly as far as wealth, but they lead very small lives. And there are some people who produce very little as far as accumulated wealth. You can think of Mother Teresa, most recently canonized, or Martin Luther King, or Mahatma Gandhi, or anybody you want, or Jesus. You can say that in the cinema, by the way, Tom. Yeah, but we don't hang on the wall. But you start, and there are people who produce much, contribute little, over an entire lifetime, and the reverse is true as well. And after you pass that peak of your productivity, at some point, for most people, the productivity goes down. It's a function of age. The longer you get to live, you're luckier, but you're producing less, and you're more of a drag on society, and you're more of a consumer. And if you have problems that are larger than average, then you are consuming more and contributing less, and society is making up the difference. Now, we can look at this two ways. I look at it as being very lucky as far as being a net contributor. I don't resent it. If I resented it, and I wanted to be a net taker, I would go to the Ozarks and be an Okie, or one of those things. I'd go to a poor country, maybe I'd move into Liberia and send you letters and make phone calls about my rich uncle. But we don't seem to be doing that. We seem to be the envy of the world. People want to come here from all over, which is a very big issue on the horizon right now that you're going to face no matter what topic you talk about. Immigration is large. Tremendous impact on the economy. And different people, and I'll try not to be too political, but I think after representing you for 30 years, you know which side some of the color war I'm on. That's blue and red, not anything else. The people who come here as immigrants and the people who come here in poor, they don't get poorer. Have you ever noticed that? They come here, they don't necessarily all get fabulously wealthy, but they still want to come here because they still do better because of the opportunities. They still come here because of the way of life. When the country was in conflict, brothers against brothers, and fought that terrible civil war, people wanted to come north. Why did they want to come north? There was more prosperity. If you want to envy and are envious of the net takers, then take. And go somewhere where you become a net taker. I would rather be a net giver. I heard once that it's better to give than to receive. Which end of that do you really want to be on? Because all you got to do if you want to be a real net taker, give up everything you have and just go on welfare. Okay, so what we have to do is come up with some reasonable solutions to try to find an equilibrium. Because there are some people who are unfortunate. Woe is me, I pay so much taxes. That's not unfortunate. If you have to live off of the taxes that someone else pays, you are the unfortunate one. And we shouldn't be envious of those people. We shouldn't be resentful of those people. We should try to figure out a way in a society where we're all entitled to a good part of what we earn, make, create, produce, where we can somehow spread a little bit of it out. Anybody pissed off that their kids were just taking allowance and never contributed anything when they were 2 years old? I mean, are you getting more resentful as time goes on when they're 40 years old and they're still giving? But you're not. You try to help them. You try to bring them up. You try to raise the standards. You try to elevate the economic condition in which people live. When people get sick, you don't want to change places with them. If, God forbid, you get sick, you want there to be something if you don't have the wherewithal to take care of it yourself. People don't come here to this country as far as immigrants are concerned because they don't want to work. They come here for a job.
Let me make this point, okay? Let's not make this a binary thing, net taker, net no, one is good and one is bad.
No, I just took off on the point you brought up.
But people are leaving this area that are senior citizens on a fixed income that can't afford to live here, and they're moving to where they don't want to leave. They'd rather stay here with their friends. They'd rather stay here on Long Island with the beaches and the open spaces. They're leaving the area and they're moving to North Carolina and South Carolina and Florida and Arizona.
And the reason for that is because they're more comfortable and the comfort level is met because of the shifting needs as we age, and we have shifting needs of a country as it ages, and the entire world and global economy as things start to shift and move around and the dynamics change at a very fast rate, as each of you has very appropriately and articulately pointed out. Why go to North Carolina? Because there's not a lot of snow to shovel. I'll have it a little bit easier. The weather, I don't have to fight it. I don't have to worry about getting sick in the winter. We all adjust. But what you're going to find, hopefully, Tom, when you get to Washington, is you're going to find a confrontational atmosphere that you have to discuss. One person's get is another person's give. I had a colleague from Las Vegas. She thought I was a pig. Well, she was Yiddish, so she thought I was a chazer. Because I wanted to deduct my property tax. And my state has a very high income tax. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Why should she have to subsidize me to get a deduction for that But all of our constituents live off of and feed off of red, black, and white, and blue chips being thrown at a wheel on a table.
Las Vegas was the fastest growing place in America in 2008.
And they
And it was suburban sprawl, which we have to also be conscious of. The places that are growing in America are using up open space, they're using up more energy, they're using up more water. They all have double height ceilings with that, the air conditioning. You have to pump the water into these arid environments. And we're creating these suburban sprawl while our older suburbs are struggling along. Anyway, so let's
So the answer,
let's get start asking some people some points after you make your last.
sure. The answer is you have to come to an accommodation on the taxes, on the immigration, on who you point fingers at, who you blame. The economic disparity, which we haven't touched on yet, I would say is the number one problem in the accumulation of a great deal of wealth. You told me I have to come at this from the left, right?
Yeah.
When you have an accumulation of a great deal of wealth, why should some kid, just because he's lucky to be born to Rita and myself, be able to get $10 million without having to account for it at all? And gets, you know what happens in 3 generations? You take a look at families with wealth. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger and accumulate more and more and more wealth. I'm not saying redistribute the wealth per se, but I'm saying we have to have an accommodation between regions, between people and wealth, so that we can all live together and find a way to accommodate it. All right.
Okay, and I did, the idea of the two speakers that I've invited here tonight, Gary and Marty, was really to come at this from 2 different perspectives, one further to the left and one further to the right. Because, unfortunately in our country, it's like way to the left and way to the right, and then nobody ever does anything in the middle to actually solve the problems. I mean, the big discouragement that people have in this country, I have my closest friends that say, why do you want to run for Congress? You can't get anything done anyway. In 2009 and 10 and 11, people were very angry. Now people are just very discouraged, that they're just afraid nothing can get done. So I want, as we move forward here tonight, and I'm going to open it up to the people in the audience now, nobody gets to yell at each other, okay? I don't care, and certainly nobody gets to hit each other like that we see happening in some of the rallies. So we're all here because we're just trying to figure out if we can open ourselves up to listening to what some different viewpoints are and figure out if there's some things that we can find. Because this is not simple. This is very complicated stuff. And we're not going to solve it tonight, obviously. But it's to start this process, this conversation that I hope will go on for a long, long time to come up with solutions to problems that people face. So I'm going to just throw out a couple different topics, and people can talk about anything they want to, ask about anything they want, but again, jobs and taxes and the economy is the basic focus of tonight. But I want you to try and think about things like job creation. How do we create jobs in America? I want you to think about taxes and that issue, basically, and job creation, taxes, supporting the middle class, and corporate reform, if anybody wants to even try and get into that stuff. Okay, so who wants to go first? Do we have other microphones here, by the way? Just as one microphone? Okay. You're going to have to try and stand up. If you ask about anything, don't be shy about anything. Ask a question about any topic you want to ask on anything you're concerned about. Don't be shy. It could be about, like, hey, I think we should raise the taxes on millionaires, or hey, I think we should reduce the corporate tax. Anybody just tell us what you're thinking. Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us who you are, if you don't mind.
I'm Janet Sussin, and I'll stand up.
Yeah.
I'm president of an organization, NAMI Queens Nassau, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And one of the huge problems we have is inadequate access to housing vouchers. And I just actually read a book called Evicted, and I found out, reading that book, that, the lineup for housing vouchers goes on forever. And on the other hand, I don't know the exact statistics, maybe 2/3 of us are lucky enough to deduct our mortgage payments, right? So you have this huge disparity and real, underclass, serious problems with access to housing for people who are less fortunate. So I wonder what your position is on that.
Okay, so Thursday night, we're actually discussing drugs, alcohol, and mental health. That's the topic for Thursday night that we're actually holding in Hicksville at the Hicksville VFW. But, and I will briefly address it, but I want to try and focus on jobs, taxes, and the economy tonight. But as far as access to housing, okay, this is a very serious issue for populations that need assistance, okay? And it's people that face mental health issues. There's a whole population that's growing all the time of autistic children that are aging out to be adults, that their parents can't continue to be caregivers for them, or it gets harder and harder as they get older. And then you have to add the whole baby boomer population that is becoming in need of assistance and not ready for nursing homes. And quite frankly, we're going to go broke if everybody tries to go into a nursing home and do it through Medicaid, this awful system where we encourage people to get rid of all their assets and their spousal refusal and parental refusal, kids refusing to take care of their parents. It's all a myth anyway. So there's a very serious problem we face in our country with the people that you're talking about, people who face mental health issues, as well as other populations that are in need of affordable is the big thing, assisted living. So we see this boom of a market that has taken place starting in the early to mid-90s in assisted living facilities. But anybody who's here has looked at that, you know, it's going to cost you $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month to go to an assisted living facility. And that's for independent living. Forget about nursing home. It's much, much more expensive than that. And there's also, you know, the idea of independent living. John Kamen is here, who's helping me on a lot of policy issues right now. Very good friend of mine who we ran against each other in primary, but we're working together because we believe that we want to try and make things better for people. But he started Project Independence here in North Hempstead, which is a brilliant program, which really should be a national program.